The Digital Photography Cafe show is brought to you by Focus Pyramid, the autofocus lens calibration tool for your camera, and by ShootProof, the easy way to proof and sell your photos online.
Welcome to the Digital Photography Cafe show. Join hosts Trevor Curran and Joseph Christina as they chat about the art and business of photography.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. This is episode 138. I'm Joseph Christina. On last week's episode, we spoke about Adobe Lightroom for iPad, Photoshop CC's hot new features, an amazing smartphone app, Spark Camera, and gave you tips on how to acquire royalty-free content for your next project. If you haven't watched last week's show, I encourage you to do so. You can find it at our website, digitalphotographycafe.com, in iTunes, listen with the popular Stitcher, TuneIn, and Xbox music apps, or watch in HD on TiVo. So, all right, guys, we are back. We're here for another week, episode 138. Amazing how fast everything's been going by. Oh, my goodness. Trevor's still doing his treatments, so he's kind of still on his hiatus. We'll be conducting the show kind of without him, but we have some really great content that we pre-recorded for you guys before he went for his treatments. But anyways, there's a lot of good stuff. But let me start out. I always kind of like telling you what I've been doing. And, you know, this week has kind of been a very interesting week. You know, we do large events on a regular basis, and kind of something sad happened. We went to an event this week, and it was at the top of this building that's absolutely beautiful. And it overlooks all of Palm Beach, the breakers, and it's just an absolute beautiful location. Come to find out from the GM that, sure enough, they're going out of business. I'm like, oh my God, how is this place going out of business? It just amazes me. I'm like, well, you know, what's going to happen to you guys? Well, we're going to be without work. There's only going to be a few of us that will be able to be brought into the breakers, the hotel formal, and the rest of us will be looking for work. And I'm looking at this place. I'm like, what a beautiful venue. It's about a 180-degree view of all of Palm Beach. It's gorgeous, gorgeous. So what happened? She's like, I'm like, you know, how many events do you do? What are you making here? So they do about 75 events a month. And this is not cheap events. This is just high end. All of the rich Palm Beachers are there. These are millionaires, billionaires. But it's still not enough. Because what has happened is, I guess, a team of lawyers or a lawyer, either a single lawyer or a bunch of lawyers bought the place, and now they're going to chop it all up into small little sectional pieces, and they're going to sell it as prime real estate office space on the tippy top of this building. And just, you know, it's to me, it's extremely sad. And this is what happens on all the time, especially down here. The art stuff, the fine locations, the really nice, it's all going for, like, you know, shopping malls and parking lots and just places that, you know, for people just to simply make money, and all of the rest just goes along the wayside. All of the old, the things that I would like to show my kids, everything's just disappearing. I don't know. Everything is just money. And the art side of it, the entertainment side of it, there's supposedly just no more money in it. It's kind of sad. And it's sad for us, you know, sad for us as photographers, because you see these venues, they just come and go. And, you know, what's going to be left? You know, you're going to be shooting like at, you know, like these small little places, these little mom and pop places compared to beautiful events. It's just sad. But anyways, we did something that we do every year with the family, and we visited the state fair, the South Florida State Fair. And, you know, for me, I really like it. It's one of those places that, you know, they will fry you if you're not moving. I mean, you can get fried Oreos, fried Snickers, fried dough, fried Twinkies, fried everything, you know. And if you eat it all, you're just not going to make it home. But it's a lot of fun. We bring the kids. There's rides, there's games, there's an ice show, there's a hypnotist. There was a concert, also those two brothers, the Swan brothers. I think they came in second or third place on The Voice recently. They were there. You know, they have animals and horses and cows and chicken and sheep and camels, and I mean, anything you can think of is there at the state fair. So, and of course you have all the arts and crafts stuff, and it's 10, 15 bucks a head, depends if it's a kid or an adult. That's pretty cheap for all of this stuff that you get. But I tell you what, guys, where these fairs get you is on tickets to the rides, because, oh my God, you have 2-3 kids, you're spending like 150, 200 bucks on these rides really quick. You can buy a band, a wristband, or you're paying individually. However, they get you. They definitely get you. So, but it was a lot of fun. Everyone had, a lot of fun there, and we try to do it each year. But I don't know if you guys have a state fair in your locale, but if you do, visit it, even if it's a little bit of a trek to get there. As artists, as creatives like we are, that eclecticness, if that's a word, of the locale is just amazing, because you see such a diversity of people. You'll see a fine artist to someone that's doing tie-dye, to the next person will be a magician, and then you'll see a musician, and then you'll see an artist that's painting, the watercolor. Then you'll find someone that's a photographer, and you have all of this diversity. And then of course you have all the carnies. They scare me, but that's a whole nother story. I actually like photographing the ride area where you have all this kind of, paint is coming off these rides, and these carnies that have no teeth. No offense to you guys, it might be carnies out there, but it's just such an amazing palette to play with if you're a photographer, and to just explore, creatively. And I really like that, because where else do you get that type of diversity where you're at? You just don't. And a diversity of people and a diversity of everything in nature. So regardless, if you guys have a state fair in your area, I would encourage you guys to go take a look, because there's just so much there. So this week we have a good show for you. We have news, and then we have some pre-roll that we put together, Trevor and myself, where we talk about what we should be providing as photographers to our client, as well as what should we be charging the client. So, all right, guys, before we get into the nitty-gritty of the show, let's go ahead and take a quick break to hear from one of our sponsors.
As photographers, we're always trying to increase sales and profits after every event.
We shoot an event and have hundreds or even thousands of images that just sit on our hard drives.
Perhaps a better workflow would increase sales by getting those valuable images in front of the client.
That's where ShootProof comes in. At ShootProof.com, you can have an online gallery for all of your clients' proofing needs.
ShootProof helps increase profits while building your brand and securing your photos without charging commission fees on sales.
ShootProof galleries display your photos beautifully while helping to streamline your workflow and automate more of your business through their intuitive studio control panel.
Once approved, photos can be directly fulfilled through ShootProof's various professional lab partners or fulfilled by you.
All ShootProof plans have the same feature set. You simply choose the number of client photos stored, decide what products to sell, and the price.
Try ShootProof today by taking advantage of their free 30-day trial offer.
As a Digital Photography Cafe viewer, ShootProof is offering a 20% discount off any of their premium plans by using promo code DPC20 at checkout.
ShootProof. Upload, share, sell, print.
So, all right, guys, we are back. So let's start out really quick. Let's jump right into it with Fuji. Now, we love Fuji. We've said it in the past. We like the whole mirrorless technology. We like what they're doing, their retro nature of their cameras, and that's what's happening here. We have a Fuji X-T1, the X-T1, another SLR mirrorless. That's right around the corner. They're saying January 28th. So by the time you hear this, it's going to be a day away or a couple of days away. It's really an interesting camera. Once again, it's 16 megapixels. It's not 20, 30, 40, 80, whatever. It's 16 megapixels. It's an APS-C trans 2, I think it is, the X-Trans 2 sensor. I think the back has a 2.3 megapixel OLED, which is nice. The thing that I like is got like 0.005 lag. That's important. Whenever you're looking on the back of these things, you want something that has that no lag. Very, very important. 8 frames, continuous shooting. That's quick. Great autofocus tracking as to be expected from the Fuji cameras, and less than 1/10 of a second as far as autofocus speed. That's pretty quick. That's really, really quick. Built-in Wi-Fi. like I said, I'm a fan of the mirrorless technology. A lot of the pros out there are not, and been hearing a lot of naysayers that saying, mirrorless is not going to happen. It's going to be dead. I still stand by my guns here. I think that mirrorless is the future. We'll see what happens with it, but Fuji has it right when it comes to mirrorless. And I do love the way they put these things together. Very retro. It has it's just beautifully done. Fits well in your hand, and there's a ton of dials like an old school SLR. So you have full control over everything. You're not having to go and punch into these menus and try to find stuff, which is such a pain, right? So yes, they do it, and they do it right. I do like the Fuji. So like I said, look for it. January 28th is what they're predicting. That's what they're saying as far as release time. They're looking for a price between $1,200 and $1,800 for the body. Nothing's locked down until they actually make the final announcement. So anyways, going forward, AP, Associated Press, they had, I've read this article and I was looking at it, I'm like, this is really interesting. So they basically canned a guy. His name, I'm going to butcher it. It's like Narciso Contreras or something. Anyways, they canned him for altering an image. So we, right off the bat, like, it's AP. You shouldn't alter an image, and it all makes sense. Yeah, just face value. Well, you don't have to read it, and I'm seeing that. Well, he's one of 5 photographers that are Pulitzer Prize winning for the coverage that he did over there in the Middle East during the Civil War back in September of 2013. So he's not, he's taken a ton, obviously, of pictures. He's been doing it forever. Well, one picture that shows up that they catch him on, let's say, is this photograph of this, Civil War guy that he's got a gun, some type of machine gun. And I'm not sure on which side he's at, but regardless, but there's a video camera on the ground, like in the dirt. Well, he removed the video camera. So the whole big uproar, he altered the picture, does he manipulating it? You can't do it as an AP photographer. Everything has to be true. So AP comes back and they say, well, everything that AP releases, the pictures must always tell the truth. So as soon as I read that, I'm sure just like you guys, I'm like, so all pictures tell the truth that AP photographers take. Really? I don't know. If you guys look at this and think about it, if you're on the same wavelength as me, no photograph ever has told the truth. The whole adage that, that photos never lie is the exact opposite. It's not true. It's never been true. So, I look at this photograph and I'm like, well, personally, I don't think this guy should have got fired. And the reason being is, number one, they did a look at all like 500 of his photos that came out of the Middle East at that time. No other one was altered. Just this one. Number one. Number two, the photograph that he took this camera that was laying on the floor out of it in the rocks or in the dirt could have simply been cropped a little bit tighter and lost a little bit of the gun, but would have lost the camera too. So now all of a sudden, that wouldn't have been there anyway. So it really didn't alter the meaning of this photograph by taking that camera out. That was kind of distracting. I don't think so, at least. They make the point to quote, no element should be digitally removed. This is their quote. The Associated Press, pictures must always tell the truth. This is in quotes. This is what they say. And it's just, it's a farce to me. I think it's a complete farce because as soon as you take a photograph, that photograph is through the eyes of you. It's through the eyes of me. It tells the story that I or you want to tell. That's it. Simply that. It's as simple as being on the battlefield with a baby and people are dying in the background, being blown up. And you simply pan right and take a picture of the commander holding that baby. And now, post that image and how it looks so innocent of what's going on. Whereas right over his shoulder, which you're not seeing because it's cropped out, is death and destruction everywhere. So once again, I really do think that the photographs themselves, I'm I don't believe that things should be added or removed from them if they're going to be altering the meaning of it. And I understand that AP has they are known to be the people that if you see a photograph and just like they state, it tells the truth. Well, I think at this point, everyone knows that that's just no longer the case. I think, once you're able to, like I said, you could crop an image ever since day one, and that image cropped completely alters the story of that photograph by simply cropping it. But, moreover, once Photoshop came into, let's say, light, or once Photoshop was invented, and the majority of the people know what Photoshop can do and what does, especially in the fashion world. I mean, how many times does a photograph come out where in the fashion world where like the model, half their arm is missing, or they're so distorted that there would be bones broken, everywhere, and they're not. So I think we all know at this point. I mean, if you look up Photoshopped, the adjective Photoshopped, it comes up as digitally editing or altering an image or its parts. So, I mean, I think it's understood that Photoshopped and Photoshopping and all the rest is what it is. This is what's occurring. This happens on a regular basis. Obviously, in AP, they have a certain ruling and a certain guideline to follow. But I think what this guy has done as far as the single camera on the floor, in accordance to the other vast piece of work that he's put together, the 500 other images where nothing was ever altered, I really personally don't think this guy should have lost his job. What do you guys think? What do you guys think on the whole idea of the truth behind a photograph? Is there truth? Or is there only the truth of the eye of the photographer and what the truth they wish to tell in that photograph? And that's personally where I sit on it. Anyways, what do you guys feel on it? Send us a quick tweet or give us a ring. I always love to hear from you guys because we look at it in certain eyes, and I think we all look at things out of the eyes of, let's say, rose color, maybe yellow, maybe amber colored glasses. Everyone has a different pair of glasses on. We look at things a little bit differently, but I'm talking to probably 20, 30, 40,000 of you guys every week. I want to hear from you. What do you guys think? And that's internationally too. And I'm guessing that someone that writes to me from Texas or from New York is going to be different, their response to someone from Germany. So what say you? Anyways, we have a lot more coming up. We're going to go ahead and get into some of that pre-roll that we spoke about. But before we do, let's go ahead and hear from one more of our sponsors.
Are you frustrated with slightly out of focus images when you know your autofocus spot was dead on? It's simply not your fault. From manufacturer to manufacturer and even lens copy to lens copy, there are slight variances to the exact spot where light is being focused onto the sensor. Finally, there's a product that allows you to compensate for those variances and make sharper images immediately. Focus Pyramid, the autofocus lens calibration tool, is an absolute must for every photographer. If you want to make the sharpest images possible, then you need to take control over your camera's focusing system. With the Focus Pyramid, you can calibrate all of your lenses on your lunch break. The Focus Pyramid makes lens calibration quick and easy at an affordable price. So give your lenses a new lease on life and take your photography to the next level. Head over to focuspyramid.com/DPC and get an additional 10% off just for being a show listener.
So, all right, guys, we are back. So as I alluded to earlier, we did put together some previously recorded content between myself and Trevor, a nice little, maybe a heated discussion a little bit, but we do speak about, what we need to provide to our clients and how much should we charge and why we should charge it. So anyways, let's go ahead and get right into it.
Last week, we talked about preparing images to be sent out to your client on a disc. And we were talking about preparing the physical size of it, the pixel dimension, and the compression on it, that you don't really need to send the highest quality, highest res images out to your client. And that kind of, we kind of just touched on the idea of it, compression and image size for your website as well. And I really wanted to kind of expand on that a little bit more. Seeing how, I'm in WordPress every day and dealing with website development And when it comes to photographers, especially, we're looking at images, right? I mean, we want to have big, beautiful images on our website. And so compression and file size is so important to take into account because of loading speeds on
Absolutely.
the viewer's end.
Yep. If you go to a website, I'm sure most of you guys know, you go and you're wandering around on Google, you find, let's say, 10 different sites that have the similar information on it. You go to the very top one, because that's what we always do.
Right.
And you go there and you see the thing spinning and spinning and spinning and spinning.
Yep.
After 4 or 5 seconds, maybe 10, the absolute most. Most people don't even last 10. But 4 or 5, 6 seconds, nixed. That site is gone. You're back to Google. You hit back and you go right down to the next one. So you want to make sure that the site is loading as fast as possible. If not, you're going to leave money on the table. People are going to be leaving.
Right. That's exactly right. So how do you figure out, what size your images need to be? Well, that's from your design standpoint. How big do you want your portfolio images to be? When somebody clicks on a thumbnail and the large version of the file pops up, how big is that going to be? You need to determine what you want the user experience to be. Now, keep in mind, people are viewing these from small laptop screens, 13-inch laptop screens. They're viewing them from tablets. They're viewing them from mobile phones. So, the days of people sitting behind 23, 24 and larger monitors, the common person are really less and less. I mean, of course, we are, because we're working on studio stuff. But they are sitting in smaller screen sizes. So you really don't need the physical size to be all that large. So what you need to do is figure out what that size is going to be, the pixel dimension, and then figure out what compression setting you can get away with when you're making your JPEG so it still looks good.
Exactly. The key is looks good, loads fast, and is still big enough. Now we have, of course, these WordPress themes that do a lot of the changing of sizes,
the responsive
kind of on the
themes.
fly.
Yep.
Exactly, the responsive themes, which is really cool, because then it kind of, you can give it a big image and then it'll kind of size it to whatever the specific, whatever it's being shown at. So, the best way to do it is, if you don't have a responsive theme, if it's possible for you to find out through, let's say, analytics or whatnot, what is the screen size that the majority of the people are viewing your work at?
Sure.
Use that as a top number, and then take that and then absolutely dumb it down as low as you can get, but so that it's still acceptable to you, that it actually still looks good at that specific size. And then it can dumb itself down however you want to after that. But the largest picture, you need it to load fast, but you still need it to look good at that size.
Yeah, well, a lot of these new themes that photographers are using for their sites have full screen rotators.
Right.
So the entire background of the website, like let's say the homepage, is a massive image rotator. So,
I love them.
You have
They're
to,
nice.
Yeah, you have to decide, all right, how big do you feel that these images really need to appear? Now, if you're working for a 13-inch screen, that's different, of course. I'm working for a 24-inch screen. So you can make the compression greater when it's on a smaller screen. But now if somebody does go to a desktop and they do view it full screen, like if they expand their window out and that image just scales up and up and up, it may look soft. It may not look great. But that's kind of that fine line that you have to determine for yourself. And you need to make sure that your responsive themes are automatically creating new images at these smaller
multiple
sizes.
images.
Right.
Yeah, that is cool though. A lot of them do that, which is really neat. So you can upload your massive one.
Right.
It will shrink it to, let's say, screen size. Let's say you're saying 13 inches, and then it'll shrink one down to, let's say, a tablet size, and it'll shrink one down to a phone size, so on and so forth. So the viewer always gets the absolute best experience or the best view of your image possible. So responsive themes are definitely a no-brainer. But if you don't have one, you need to take into account, what is that top size, and make sure that it looks its absolute very best. But the side, of course, is it needs to load fast. So it's that balancing act that you have to do to make sure. Because I mean, many times I'll go to like a photographer's website, they'll write to us with a question. So we'll go and kind of take a look at their website, and some of them will be like loading and loading and loading and loading. And it's like, the ones that have the themes that have the huge pictures in the background are notorious for this. If they're not written well and they're not like loading in the background, the next image and it's waiting and rotating, it doesn't give
it's a bad
good
experience.
impression. Bad experience. It's almost as bad as having like a WordPress style portfolio type of blog as a photographer. And instead of like showing only, let's say 2 or 3 blog posts on the front screen, on the front page, they do 30.
Yeah.
And they're all full of images.
And they're all full of images, and all those images need to load.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It's tough.
Horrible. Don't do that, guys. Don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. Definitely keep your blog down to a minimum, especially if you have a lot of images. The other, another big thing, and this is really kind of another topic that we should probably get into at another time, but this load speed also has a lot to do with your server. So many people out there go the cheap route with hosting, and they go for these $5 a month server accounts. And it's on a shared server with thousands of other websites, and you're sharing resources from that computer with all of these other websites. And if they have high traffic volumes, it's going to knock down the speed that your website runs at. So server speed is really important. I always say, don't go for the cheapest one out there. You don't need to go with the most expensive one either, but you kind of need something in between that's going to give you the best results.
Absolutely.
But you know what? We'll get into that another time.
Yeah. Write that one down.
Yeah, I'll write that.
We'll have to talk more about that. So, so last week we talked obviously about the images and what image size to give to the client, and not to give basically the client, the barn, the horse, the cow, the chickens, the whole thing, right, out of the gate. You want to hold something back and kind of give them what they want, and don't go past that, because this way it gives you the ability to sell them something in the future.
If you're just kind of
new and you're just listening in,
know.
the initial session might not be the moneymaker. The moneymaker might be the book later, or the big wall, portrait, this on canvas or something. So you want to give them what they want, and don't go overboard past that.
So not unless that's agreed upon up front, and they're paying for the cow and the farm.
Exactly. And then of course you're going to give it to them. You're not going to hold back.
No, you're not going to hold back.
Right. So this week, the idea that we're going to talk about is, so what do we charge? What is the charge for what we are giving them? And, we had this conversation, a while ago, and we had it again, I think it was yesterday, the day before, and we got into a fight and kind of an argument back and forth, as we always do, because that's what a good co-hosts do, with each other.
That's
and
right.
So
you have to fight, yin and yang, right?
Yin and yang, exactly. And that's, I'm sure you guys have listened to the show, hopefully for the last year and a half. You'll see that, my ideas on stuff are different than Trevor's, and we kind of play off each other, positives and negatives. And you'll probably hate me and like him, or hate him like me, but you just, that's just the way it goes.
Yep.
But anyway, so, we were discussing this and we're going back and forth, and I'm like, you can't have a price list and charge everyone the same on the same price on the price list. And we were kind of going back and forth, and you didn't really know what I was saying, and I was kind of pulling both ways. We're kind of going back and forth. But the idea is that, if my thought on this is, as we are in a destination location here. So, and I deal with people that are locals, and I deal with people that are from New York, LA. I deal with model actors, actresses from
you've
all over the planet.
You've got a range of clients and a range of income levels that you're dealing with.
So, the multi-million billionaire, has an expectation of X. And the local that needs an actor headshots is just starting to get, started, has, an expectation of Y, and an amount of cost of Y that they're willing to spend too.
Right.
So, if you went out, if we put out a price list and said, okay, a actor headshot is this price, what would happen then is either you would be too high for the locals, right?
Right.
Or you would be too low for the folks that are looking for something, let's say, better, or that are coming from a more affluent
Right.
state, or location, or whatever it is. So this is kind of what we were kind of going back and forth, and we were kind of discussing and fighting about.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Well, my take on it was, I thought you were trying to say like, oh, you charge people that have more money more just because they have more money. And after further discussion, that wasn't the case. That's what was pissing me off.
Right.
So
Exactly.
No, that's absolutely right. I mean, you can't charge the same thing to everybody, even though you're doing the same type of work. If you're doing a portrait for a local and they're expecting to kind of get something down and dirty, crash and burn it through, just, minor color correction, and that's kind of it, then yeah, of course, that's going to be, you can do that for less money because it's taking less time. But now if you're doing another portrait, maybe you're spending a little bit more time on setup and, outfit changes. They're doing hair and makeup, they're expecting a much higher end result with full-blown retouching, like you say, pour level retouching and all of that. Well, you're doing more work. So of course that portrait is going to cost more. And that totally makes sense.
Yeah.
So I mean, you could have the exact same headshot, or the same, let's say, a model or actor headshot,
Right.
that could cost, let's say, $150, or the same headshot could be $500 to $750.
Right.
And so what goes into it? What determines? Going back to who the person is that's coming to you, you need to kind of research who it is that is looking for your service.
Right.
If it's someone famous that is looking for you because they saw your work, and they might not know you from Adam, but they really like your work, and they're looking at it like, wow, I
Right.
mean, this is, and all right, so I'm coming down to Florida, I got to fly in, I'm doing something, maybe in Palm Beach or in Orlando. Let me see if there's a local photographer down there that I can try or use. So when they come to you, they have an expectation that is, let's say much higher than what a local would have down here.
Right.
They say, okay, I need something absolutely gorgeous, amazing, or maybe they've had gorgeous and amazing work done wherever they come from. So they have
that's
this
their level of
expectation.
expectation. That's what they expect
Right.
from you.
So if you go in and say, okay, my, headshot session is $150, let's just say for an example, they're going to be like,
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
you're one of those cheap guys. You're just going to bang it. It's not going to look very good. Yeah,
gonna be
that's
crap.
that level of expectation. Your value, you don't want to diminish your value by having a price too low in comparison to the customer's expectations and what they're looking for, what they want.
Exactly.
Now, the whole priceless thing, I mean, that can work if you are working with a certain level of client. If you are only working local and you're only doing weddings, let's say, or you're only doing headshots, and it's all the same type of work over and over and over again, then that could probably be kind of a boring way to lead your photography career, but it's bread and butter, right? I mean, we got to pay
Absolutely.
the bills. So at that point, maybe a price list works. But on the other hand, if you do have a variety of clients, wanting different things, having different expectations, and maybe the price list doesn't work, and maybe you really need to quote those out per job. And
Right.
quoting it out, I do a lot of client work, and I base everything on hours of how long I think it's going to take me to do this project. Now, I've been doing graphic design for so long. I've got this nailed down. I mean, I know how long a logo design is going to take. I know that if I've got a local guy who's a contractor that's looking for something to, put on his business cards, some stationery to use on his website, and he's got a certain level of expectation, he's got a certain budget, I know how long I can put into that logo and still meet his budget and still deliver something that looks good. Now, on the other hand, if I have Sony Electronics or, any other, large corporate client that I've worked with, they're not going to get the same level of work that I'm doing for this local contractor. They're going to get a lot more hours involved. There's going to be a lot more exploratory work. We're going to be going back and forth with the marketing managers multiple times with revisions. It's all decisions by committee. Everybody's got to put their thumbprint
Love
on it. So then you're making tweaks and you're changing this and you're doing that. And then somebody has a totally different idea that they want to see. So that's a totally different price structure.
Absolutely. And the key to that is, like you said, how much time.
Yes.
And time
is the key, no matter if you're billing hourly or if you're billing per project. The amount of time that it's going to take you to basically soup to nuts from beginning to end of the project. And let's say we use, a headshot for an example, like we started out with.
Yep.
If you're doing a local headshot and let's say you're going to be charging $150 for it, you should be doing X amount of time of retouching on that picture.
Yes.
No more.
No more.
No less.
Yep.
No less. Because you don't want your work out there dumbed down in any way.
Right.
But you want to do X amount of time, which you're comfortable of retouching on it, and no more. And that's it.
Yes.
Now, the other side of that is now you're doing, the actor that flew in from LA and they want to test you out. And let's say you're charging $500 on that.
Yep.
You need to be doing Y amount of retouching on it. You need
Absolutely.
to probably do, as I do, poor level retouching where it's non-discernible. You can't tell that retouching was ever done.
Sure. And maybe you want to retouch 3 images, 3 of the best images to show them to select
Instead
from,
of
as
one,
opposed
right.
to just doing 1.
Absolutely. Maybe you want to give them 3
Yes.
instead of giving them 1. And that
Absolutely.
also goes into the amount of time that you want to use. So, if you use time as a base and you use, what is your client's expectation
Right.
of both quality, quantity, cost, quality, quantity, and cost, you'll probably be able to get within a ballpark on what you need to charge. And by us telling you what that is, it's not going to work for your specific location.
I would say
obviously,
figure out
but-
an hourly rate. Figure out an hourly
Right.
rate that you feel comfortable with based on your experience as a photographer, based on the level of work that you've done, based on the quality of your portfolio. If you're just starting out and you've got, just some snaps of your family members and stuff, you're not going to be able to go out there and charge $250 an hour. I'm sorry, guys. You're going to be hard pressed to find people to pay that. On the other hand, are you worth $50 an hour? Are you worth $75 an hour? That's what you need to determine. What is your skill set? What is your level of expertise? That directly is proportionate to what you should and what you can get for your hourly rate. Now,
Right,
you may
I know.
be able to sneak in a couple people and get $150 or $200 an hour, but what's going to happen is the majority of the people are going to see the level of work that you're giving to them. They're going to be unhappy for the money they've paid. If you're not,
and then
up to
you won't
par.
get the repeat business
Yes.
and the the word of mouth, and that's where we photographers, where we make it is word of mouth.
Absolutely.
But I hate to always we're talking about actors and actresses, but this is the same this principle, the same idea goes along with wedding photographers. It's
Sure.
the exact same thing. If you have a bride that's coming in, that's flying in, that's a destination wedding, and they are staying at the highest end hotel, and that there's someone that is extremely affluent. When you quote them, don't just quote them just willy-nilly with your regular price list. Get to know who they are before you quote. And then
Right.
what is that expectation? And
Right.
find out. They might, your locals might want, be happy with a little 8x8 book, whereas this bride might want a full 12x12, which is 24-inch spread,
Yes.
with 28 spreads in it, and leather and the whole 9 yards.
Yes.
Need to know, and this way, when you do quote it, you're quoting it appropriately, and you will be most likely to get the job. In comparison to, this bride is ready to pay $5,000 for the photographer. You go in at $1,250, and she doesn't even look at your work at that point.
No,
She's like,
because you're going to be too
or-
underpriced. She's got a certain
Yeah.
expectation level, and she's just going to
Exactly.
think you're not qualified to do the work.
Or your work looks really good, but she still doesn't take you because she's like, well, maybe this guy is not reliable or something. I mean, that's
Right.
just a crazy price. Everyone else wants, $3,500 to $5,000. This guy wants $1,250.
Yep.
Something is wrong. And, us, human beings, we really base our ideas on the quality of something based on the price that we pay for
Absolutely.
it. It's a sad thing, but that is just simply it. When you buy a BMW or a Mercedes, you expect a certain level of quality, of craftsmanship in comparison to buying a Honda or a Toyota or whatnot. That's a half or a third or a quarter of the price.
Absolutely.
We are really price oriented. So,
Yep.
really be diligent and looking up who the person is that's coming to you prior to putting out that quote.
So, all right, guys, we hope you enjoyed that piece. I think it's time to get out of here. We haven't asked you guys in a long, long time, but if you enjoyed the show, please take a moment to visit iTunes and either write a review or give us a 5-star rating. It would really, really help us out a lot, and we would appreciate it. Thank you. If you would like to directly contact either Trevor or myself, you can do so through Twitter. That's at Trevor Current or at Joseph Christina, and that's Christina without an H. And if you'd like all the show notes from this episode, you can visit digitalphotographycafe.com/138. And don't forget to send all of your questions and comments to comments@digitalphotographycafe.com or simply call 440-345-6707. Once again, that's 440-345-6707, and we will see you next week.
You've been watching the Digital Photography Cafe Show with Trevor Current and Joseph Christina. Be sure to subscribe to the show for free in iTunes or through RSS. You can also listen on Stitcher and TuneIn Radio and watch in HD on TiVo. Visit digitalphotographycafe.com for show notes and to connect with your hosts.